The first crackling radio transmission from Sol 3 reached the Galactic Council's Deep Space Monitoring Station on a quiet Tuesday shift. Operator Vexilin nearly missed it entirely, mistaking the weak signal for stellar interference. The primitive, electromagnetic waves carried strange patterns, organized sounds that repeated in mathematical sequences. Music, they realized. These creatures were broadcasting music into the void. Another baby species trying to say hello, Vexilin muttered, logging the discovery in the Council's vast database. Within hours, automated analysis systems had dissected every transmission Earth had ever sent. Television broadcasts showing bipedal mammals walking upright, radio chatter about something called weather reports. Most amusing of all, fictional stories about space travel using chemical rockets. Rockets that would take centuries to reach even their nearest star. The classification came down from Central Command within days. Juvenile species, Class 7, technological, infancy. The humans of Sol 3 had barely mastered controlled explosions to lift metal tubes into their own atmosphere. Their computers filled entire rooms but possessed less processing power than a standard Council datapad. They still fought wars over patches of dirt and argued about invisible beings in the sky. Ambassador Zethkar received the assignment with the enthusiasm one might reserve for organizing supply closets. A towering insectoid with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected rainbow patterns, he had shepherded dozens of primitive worlds through their first galactic introduction. The process was always the same. Appear in their skies with just enough technological display to prove superiority, establish communication, guide them through basic scientific principles, and slowly introduce them to the greater galactic community. Over several generations, his ship, the Guidance Dawn, was perfectly suited for such work. Medium-sized by Council standards but massive enough to inspire appropriate awe in primitive species. Its hull gleamed with adaptive metamaterials that could shift from mirror-bright to deep void black. The propulsion system used contained gravitational fields, technology these humans wouldn't discover for another 1,000 years if they followed standard development patterns. The journey to Sol 3 took 3 standard cycles through hyperspace. Zethkar spent the time reviewing human broadcasts, noting their crude but creative attempts at storytelling. Their fictional accounts of space travel were particularly entertaining. They imagined battles with laser weapons, faster than light, travel, and encounters with hostile alien empires. Such imagination was common among young species. They always pictured the galaxy as a dangerous place full of conflict, never realizing that ancient civilizations had long ago moved past such primitive behavior. "Sir, we're approaching the target system," announced Navigator Kelleth from the bridge. "Shall I position us within their visual range?" Zethkar settled into his command chair, all 4 arms adjusting controls with practiced efficiency. "Standard, first contact protocol. Position us near their largest satellite. What do they call it, Luna? Make sure we're visible from their planet's surface during their night cycle. I want their telescopes to spot us first. Let them think they discovered us." The Guidance Dawn dropped out of hyperspace with barely a ripple, its arrival as subtle as a whisper. The ship's sensors immediately began cataloging the human home system. One small rocky planet in the habitable zone, teeming with primitive life. Several gas giants farther out, their moons ripe for future mining operations. A single star providing adequate energy for basic civilization. Fascinating, Zethkar mused, studying the readings. They've actually managed to place artificial objects in orbit around their world. Crude metal constructs held together with chemical bonds but functional. Perhaps they're more advanced than the initial report suggested. His optimism faded as deeper scans revealed the true nature of human space technology. Their orbital stations were tiny, barely capable of sustaining a handful of occupants. Their rockets leaked fuel and required enormous ground-based support, systems just to reach low orbit. Most tellingly, they had never successfully sent a crewed mission beyond their own moon. "Sir?" Communications specialist Trilara spoke up, her melodic voice carrying confusion. "I'm detecting some unusual readings from the planet's surface. The electromagnetic signature suggests they have some form of global communication network, but the power consumption patterns are strange. Zethkar's attention sharpened. Define strange. They appear to be using their communication networks for entertainment as much as information exchange. Billions of individual nodes sharing pictures of small furry animals and arguing about trivial matters. It's unlike any pattern we've seen from developing civilizations. This gave Zethkar pause. Most species use their first global networks for scientific advancement and resource coordination. Humans seem to have built a planet-spanning system primarily for social interaction and amusement. Either they were remarkably inefficient, or their social structures were more complex than their technology suggested. Begin standard observation. Protocols, he ordered. I want full cultural analysis before we make direct contact. These humans may be more unpredictable than usual. The guidance dawn settled into a stable orbit, invisible to human detection systems, but perfectly positioned to study this curious young species that sang to the stars and filled their networks with cat videos. 3 months into formal contact with Earth, cultural analyst Quindar began noticing things that made her scales itch with unease. She floated in her biogel tank aboard the Guidance Dawn, her tentacles dancing across holographic displays showing human mythological texts. What she found defied everything the Galactic Council knew about primitive species development. Ambassador, she called through the ship's communication system, her voice rippling with concern. You need to see this immediately. Zethkar arrived in the analysis chamber to find Quindar surrounded by floating data streams. Ancient human texts scrolled past in dozens of languages: Sanskrit, Sumerian, Egyptian hieroglyphs, Celtic runes. All telling the same impossible stories. Look at this. Quindar highlighted a passage from something called the Mahabharata. These humans describe aerial vehicles called vimanas that could travel between worlds. But here's what's disturbing. The technical specifications match our own atmospheric craft designs. Propulsion through controlled gravitational fields, navigation, by stellar positioning, even defensive energy shields. Zethkar's compound eyes focused on the text. Primitive imagination often... No, sir. Listen to this description of a weapon called the Brahmastra. Quindar's voice dropped to a whisper. It speaks of a projectile charged with the power of the universe, creating a column of smoke and flame bright as 10,000 suns. The description perfectly matches a stellar plasma cannon discharge pattern. The ambassador's 4 arms went rigid. Stellar plasma cannons were restricted technology, known only to the most advanced council civilizations. No species should have witnessed such weapons and lived to describe them, let alone primitive humans who had never left their own solar system. Perhaps coincidence, Zethkar said, but his voice lacked conviction. There's more. Quindar switched displays. Norse mythology describes the Rainbow Bridge Bifrost, which they claim connects different worlds. The mathematical description hidden in the poetry matches our hyperspace corridor calculations exactly. Egyptian texts speak of boats that sail through the heavens carrying souls to distant stars, and they name specific stellar coordinates that correspond to real star systems. Archaeological specialist Drimtalk burst into the chamber, his rocky carapace glowing with excitement. Ambassador, we have a problem. The human archaeological sites make no sense. He projected a holographic map of Earth, marked with excavation sites. According to human records, their civilization began roughly 12,000 years ago. Agriculture, writing, the first cities. But we're detecting artificial structures buried much deeper. Stone monuments that predate their supposed dawn of civilization by tens of thousands of years. Carbon dating errors, Zethkar suggested weakly. Impossible. We're using quantum resonance dating, far more accurate than their primitive methods. Some of these structures are 50,000 years old. Look at this. He zoomed in on a site in modern-day Turkey. They call it Göbekli Tepe, massive stone pillars arranged in precise astronomical alignments. The sophistication required to build this predates their written history by 40,000 years. But that's not the worst part, Drimtalk continued. We're finding similar sites on 6 different continents, all built during the same time period, all requiring advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering, as if a highly advanced civilization existed on Earth and then vanished. Genetic specialist Yilnar materialized in the chamber, her energy form crackling with agitation. The biological samples have been processed. We need to discuss the results privately. Zethkar dismissed the others and activated privacy shields. What did you find? Ambassador human DNA contains genetic markers that are older than our oldest recorded civilizations. Sequences that suggest artificial enhancement, genetic engineering techniques that we've only recently mastered. Their immune systems show adaptation to cosmic radiation levels consistent with long-term space travel. Their bone density and muscle attachment points suggest evolution in variable gravity environments. That's impossible. They've never left their planet. According to them, yes. But their bodies tell a different story. There's something else. Yilnar's form flickered nervously. I found fragments of genetic code that match samples in the Council's xenobiological database, specifically from the architect's sites. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. The architects were legend, a mythical civilization that supposedly existed millions of years ago, before the current galactic order. Ancient ruins scattered across dozens of worlds bore their mysterious markings, but no one had ever identified what species built them. Are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Yilnar interrupted. I'm stating facts. Human genetic markers predate every known civilization in the galaxy. Their mythology contains technical knowledge they shouldn't possess. Their archaeological sites show evidence of advanced technology in their distant past. And now their DNA shows connections to the most ancient mysteries in galactic history. Zethkar stood silent for long moments, processing the implications. Outside the ship's viewports, Earth turned peacefully in space, its blue surface hiding secrets that could reshape everything the galaxy believed about itself. Send an encrypted message to Council Central Command, he finally ordered. Classification: Level Alpha Prime. We need xenoarchaeological teams, genetic analysis specialists, and historical researchers. Everything we thought we knew about this species may be wrong. And the humans, sir? Do we continue the standard first contact protocols? Zethkar watched Earth's Terminator line creep across continents that had apparently hosted advanced civilization, before his own species had crawled from their homeworld's oceans. Continue the protocols, but watch them carefully. If we're right about what we're discovering, we may not be meeting a primitive species taking its first steps into space. We may be meeting something far older and more dangerous than we ever imagined. The emergency council session convened in the depths of space aboard the massive research vessel, Truth Seeker. Representatives from 12 different species gathered in the central chamber, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic vibrations. But today, silence dominated the room as Dr. Veltara, the galaxy's leading xenoarchaeologist, prepared to deliver findings that would shatter everything they believed about galactic history. What you're about to see, Veltara began, her crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy, challenges our fundamental understanding of civilization itself. The chamber's holographic projectors activated, displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared across dozens of star systems, each marking an archaeological site. For the past 4 cycles, our teams have been investigating anomalous ruins across the galaxy, sites we previously attributed to unknown extinct species. We now know they all share a common origin. The first hologram showed a massive stone complex on Kepler 442b, its angular architecture rising from windswept plains. Towering pillars supported geometric platforms, while intricate carvings covered every surface. This site on Kepler 442b dates back 2.3 million years. Notice the construction techniques: fitted stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons assembled, without any visible binding agents. Ambassador Zethkar leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic light. We've seen similar techniques on dozens of worlds. Standard architect construction methods. Exactly. But look at this. Veltara zoomed in on the carvings. What had once appeared to be abstract geometric patterns now revealed themselves as unmistakably representational art. Bipedal figures with 2 arms, 2 legs, and distinctive facial features. These aren't abstract symbols. They're portraits. The chamber erupted in agitated sounds as representatives recognized the familiar forms. The carved figures looked exactly like the humans currently orbiting their primitive planet in tin cans and celebrating their first clumsy steps into space. The evidence gets more disturbing, Veltara continued, switching to another site. This complex on Wolf 359c contains a complete star chart, carved in obsidian and inlaid with precious metals. The stellar positions shown in this chart match Earth's night sky exactly as it appeared 50,000 years ago. Dr. Ketmore, a reptilian archaeologist from the Draconis sector, hissed in disbelief. Impossible. That would require perfect knowledge of stellar drift, gravitational influences, and galactic rotation. No primitive species possesses such astronomical precision. It gets worse. Veltara's form flickered between colors indicating extreme distress. We've found similar star charts on 17 different worlds, all showing Earth's sky from different time periods spanning millions of years. These ancient builders weren't just aware of Earth, they were obsessed with it. The hologram shifted to display the most shocking discovery yet. Deep beneath the surface of Proxima Centauri b, excavation robots had uncovered a vast underground facility. The architecture was distinctly human in scale. Doorways designed for bipedal creatures roughly 2 meters tall, control panels positioned for 5-fingered hands, even furniture proportioned for human-sized bodies. This facility dates back 4.2 million years, Veltara announced. It contains technology we're only beginning to understand. Quantum computing systems that make our most advanced processors look like children's toys. Power generators that tap directly into stellar fusion cores. Most significantly, we found intact data storage devices. The chamber fell completely silent. Intact data from the architects had never been recovered before. Every previous site had been stripped clean or damaged beyond recovery. Our translation teams have been working around the clock. The data is stored in a complex mathematical language, but the base structure— Veltara paused, her crystalline form dimming. The base structure matches human linguistic patterns. Subject-verb-object construction, emotional modifiers, even what appears to be humor. Chief historian Baxith, whose species had maintained galactic records for over 1 million years, spoke in trembling tones. Show us the data. The hologram displayed fragments of translated text. Mission log, colonial expedition, 7432. The new colony on Kepler 442b shows promising agricultural potential. The native species remain in early developmental stages. We must be careful not to interfere with their natural evolution. The preservation protocols must be maintained at all costs. Another fragment. Warning: cascade failure detected in the home system. Solar instability increasing beyond acceptable parameters. All colonial assets must prepare for extended isolation. The children may need to start over from the beginning. And finally, the most chilling entry. Final log. The great experiment has failed. Our civilization has grown too proud, too reckless. The weapons we created to protect ourselves have become our doom. Those who survive must forget what we were, become what we once protected. Perhaps in time they will grow wiser than we did. The seeds have been planted on the third world of Sol. May they bear better fruit. The silence stretched for eternal moments as the implications sank in. The humans weren't a primitive species taking their first steps into space. They were the scattered remnants of the galaxy's first great civilization, deliberately regressed to protect them from whatever catastrophe had destroyed their ancient empire. The genetic evidence supports this conclusion, Veltara continued, quietly. Human DNA contains artificial markers consistent with deliberate genetic modification. Someone took advanced humans and altered them to survive on a single world, stripped of their technology and memories, but retaining enough core intelligence to eventually rediscover spaceflight. Zethkar felt his worldview crumbling. Every species in the galaxy owed their existence to the architect's ancient restraint. The star charts, the preserved worlds, the careful non-interference with developing civilizations, it was all their legacy. And now the architect's children were awakening, building primitive rockets and dreaming of the stars their ancestors once ruled. "What do we do?" someone whispered. Beltara's form pulsed with uncertainty. "I don't know. We're not dealing with a new species joining the galactic community. We're witnessing the return of our creators." Commander Riley Chen stood in the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching Earth turn slowly beneath her feet. Something had changed in the past few weeks. The dreams were getting stronger, more vivid. Not just her dreams. Every human in space was reporting the same thing: visions of vast ships sailing between stars, of cities that spanned entire moons, of technologies that made their current spacecraft look like paper airplanes. "Chen, you need to see this," called Dr. Pavel Kowalski from the communications array. His voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. "We're picking up signals from the asteroid belt, dozens of them, all broadcasting on frequencies we've never used." Riley pushed off from the viewport and floated over to Pavel's station. The screens showed wave patterns unlike anything in their databases. Complex, mathematical, almost musical in their structure. Could be natural phenomena, magnetized iron ore interacting with solar radiation. "That's what I thought too," Pavel said, pulling up another display. "Until I ran the patterns through our linguistic analysis software. The computer says these signals contain structured information, language patterns, and Riley." He paused, his face pale. "The base mathematical structure matches human cognitive patterns perfectly, as if they were designed specifically for human minds to understand." Before Riley could respond, the station's proximity alarms began blaring. Through the viewports, they watched as a dark object that had been catalogued as asteroid designation 2024 KX7 began to change. Its surface, previously a dull gray rock, started glowing with internal light. Geometric patterns emerged along its hull, patterns that looked disturbingly familiar to anyone who'd studied ancient human architecture. "Ground control, this is ISS," Riley spoke into her headset. "We have a situation up here. That asteroid we've been tracking for the past year, it's not an asteroid. Down on Earth, similar awakenings were happening across the globe." Dr. Amara Okafor sat in her laboratory in Lagos, staring at brain scans that defied medical science. Her research into human neurology had taken an unexpected turn when she started studying the dreams reported by astronauts and high-altitude pilots. "The neural pathways are activating in sequences we've never seen before," she explained to her colleague Dr. Ravi Sharma over video call. "It's as if dormant sections of the human brain are suddenly coming online. Sections that shouldn't exist according to everything we know about evolution." "What kind of sections?" Ravi asked from his laboratory in Mumbai. "Enhanced spatial reasoning. Three-dimensional calculation abilities that allow for navigation in zero-gravity environments. Radiation resistance mechanisms, most strangely, what appears to be built-in knowledge of stellar mechanics and gravitational physics, as if these abilities were genetically programmed into us but never activated." Across the world, similar discoveries were emerging. Fighter pilots were reporting instinctive knowledge of three-dimensional combat maneuvers they'd never learned. Engineers were solving complex problems with solutions that seemed to come from nowhere. Artists were creating works that incorporated mathematical principles they didn't consciously understand. The most dramatic changes were happening among humans in space. Captain Torres, commanding the Mars colony ship New Horizon, found herself making navigation corrections based on intuitive understanding of gravitational fields. Her crew reported feeling comfortable with spacecraft operations they'd never trained for, as if the knowledge was simply appearing in their minds. "It's like muscle memory," Torres reported to Earth. "But for things we've never done before." Yesterday, Lieutenant Murphy disabled a plasma conduit leak using repair techniques that aren't in any of our manuals. When I asked where he learned them, he couldn't explain. The knowledge was just there. The most shocking discovery came from Dr. Elena Vasquez, studying human behavior patterns at the Antarctic Research Station. Her team had been analyzing why humans formed such strong social bonds compared to other species, when they realized the truth. What we've always called pack bonding isn't random evolution. she announced during a global scientific conference. It's military doctrine, hardwired tactical thinking designed for small unit operations in hostile environments. The way humans automatically assign roles in crisis situations, the instinctive trust we place in teammates, even our tendency to form hierarchies, it's all optimized for combat effectiveness in space-based operations. The evidence was overwhelming. Human risk-taking behavior, previously attributed to faulty evolutionary wiring, perfectly matched the psychological profile needed for deep space exploration. The human tendency to form emotional attachments to tools and vehicles wasn't sentimentality. It was survival programming for long-duration missions where equipment failure meant death. But the real proof came when the signals from space began to multiply. What had started as scattered transmissions from the asteroid belt became a symphony of awakening technology. Ancient human constructs disguised as space rocks and dead satellites were coming online across the solar system. Captain Li Wei, piloting a routine supply mission to the moon, nearly crashed his ship when a dead satellite suddenly activated next to him. The object, catalogued as space debris for over 60 years, unfolded like a metallic flower. Its hull displayed the same geometric patterns found in ancient human archaeological sites. "Ground control," Li reported, his voice shaking. "The satellite is broadcasting. It's sending navigation data, star charts showing routes to other systems, and the transmission is addressing me by name. It knows who I am." Similar activations were happening throughout the solar system. Mining platforms that had been dismissed as unusually metallic asteroids were revealing themselves as dormant industrial facilities. Communication arrays disguised as cosmic background radiation were beginning to transmit detailed technical specifications for technologies decades ahead of current human science. The most unsettling discovery came from the outer planets. Long-range sensors detected massive structures in the Kuiper Belt that had been invisible to previous surveys. As human consciousness expanded and ancient memories surfaced, these installations were awakening, their advanced cloaking systems deactivating after millennia of sleep. Dr. Hassan al-Rashid, monitoring deep space communications from the Arecibo replacement facility, made the final connection. The signals aren't random. They're responding to something, to us, to human brain activity. The more our people remember, the more technology activates. It's as if our ancestors built a galaxy-spanning network that would only respond to their own descendants. Earth's government scrambled to understand what was happening, but the truth was becoming undeniable. Humanity wasn't discovering space technology, they were remembering it. And across the galaxy, ancient human systems were awakening to welcome their creators' children home. The first sign that everything had changed came when the hyperspace lanes went dark. Across the galaxy, starships found themselves unable to access the quantum corridors that connected star systems. Trade routes that had operated for millions of years simply vanished. Panic spread through the Galactic Council as communication networks failed and transportation ground to a halt. Ambassador Zethkar stood on the bridge of the Guidance Dawn, watching his navigation systems display nothing but error messages. How is this possible? The hyperspace network has been stable for over 3 million years. Chief Engineer Krillax looked up from his diagnostic panel, his multiple eyes wide with confusion. "Sir, the quantum gates aren't malfunctioning. They're asking for authorization codes we don't have." On the observation screen, Earth hung peacefully in space, seemingly unaware that its children had just locked down galactic civilization with a thought. But aboard the International Space Station, Commander Riley Chen was experiencing something far different. The dreams had stopped being dreams. Now they were memories, flowing through her mind like a river of light. She remembered stellar engineering, projects that reshaped entire solar systems. She recalled AI companions with personalities as complex as any organic being. Most clearly, she remembered the authorization protocols for a galaxy-spanning network that humanity had built before other species had even developed written language. "Riley," Dr. Pavel called from his station, "every human in space is reporting the same thing. They remember how to operate systems we've never seen before. Jenkins on the Mars base just activated a terraforming array that's been dormant for 4 million years. The transformation wasn't violent or destructive. As human consciousness expanded and ancient memories surfaced, dormant systems throughout the galaxy began responding to their creators' descendants. Massive structures that had been classified as natural phenomena revealed themselves as sophisticated engineering projects. The rings around Saturn weren't just ice and rock. They were the remains of a vast computational array, its processing power still operational after eons of dormancy. The asteroid belt contained manufacturing facilities capable of constructing entire fleets of starships. Most shocking of all, the supposed dead zones of space that ships avoided were actually cloaked installations, their stealth systems so advanced that they had fooled galactic science for millions of years. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, working from the newly constructed Lunar Observatory, made the discovery that changed everything. "The quantum gates aren't separate systems," she announced during an emergency broadcast to Earth. "They're all connected to a central network, a network that's been managing galactic traffic, trade routes, and even interstellar communication for millions of years. And the central hub..." She paused, hardly believing her own words. "The central hub is here, in our solar system, hidden in plain sight." The revelation came when Captain Maria Santos, commanding humanity's newest deep space vessel, approached what had been catalogued as a rouge planet drifting through the Oort cloud. As her ship drew near, the dark world began to change. Its surface peeled away like an opening flower, revealing a structure so vast and sophisticated that it defied comprehension. "Ground control," Maria reported, her voice filled with awe. "This isn't a planet. It's a space station, the size of a planet but artificial, and it's welcoming us home." The station's AI, dormant for eons, activated with a voice that sounded almost human. "Welcome back, children of Terra. I have maintained the watch for 4.7 million years as instructed. All systems remain operational, awaiting your commands." Across the galaxy, similar awakenings were occurring. Ancient human installations were coming online, their AI guardians greeting their creators' descendants with joy and relief. The systems weren't weapons or tools of conquest, they were infrastructure, vast engineering projects designed to nurture and protect developing civilizations. The truth became clear when Dr. Hassan al-Rashid accessed the central archives. "We didn't just build a galactic empire," he announced to the assembled leaders of Earth. "We built a garden. Every habitable world, every protected trade route, every stable system that allowed other species to evolve and thrive. We created that. Our ancestors designed a galaxy-wide ecosystem specifically to help younger species develop safely. The Galactic Council representatives who had once looked down on humanity now found themselves in a very different position. The primitive species they had planned to guide through basic technology had just revealed itself as the architect of galactic civilization itself. But the humans who awakened to their true heritage weren't the same as their ancient ancestors. The catastrophe that had forced them to abandon their technology and regress to a single world had taught them valuable lessons. The pride and recklessness that had once destroyed their civilization was tempered by millions of years of starting over, of building communities, of learning to work together on a single planet. Captain Chen, now serving as Earth's primary liaison with the awakening AI networks, addressed the galaxy from the command center of the ancient space station. "We remember what we built and we remember why we lost it. This time will be different. We are not here to rule or control. We're here to tend the garden our ancestors planted." The quantum gates reopened, but now they operated under human oversight. Fair passage for all species, protection for developing worlds, and careful management of resources. The galaxy that had once functioned on the hidden foundation of human technology now operated with humanity's active participation. The change wasn't conquest, it was homecoming. The sleeping giant had awakened, not to dominate, but to resume its ancient role as gardener, protector, and guide. The universe's children had finally come home, wiser and more patient than their ancestors, ready to nurture the galaxy they had never truly left behind. and in the depths of space, ancient monitoring stations continued their eternal watch. Now, guided by voices that remembered both the pride that had once destroyed a civilization and the love that had built it back from nothing.